In Philippians 2, when Paul says, for it is God who works in you, both to will and to work for his good pleasure. We often think, I get this all the time, Christians like, I am who I am. I don't have the ability to, I'm too old to change my ways at this point. Or, Christians all the time use excuses. I'm ADD, or welcome to the world. So am I, okay? We all are. We're a distracted generation. Or I have this illness or that illness, but we have to remember that first and foremost, as a new creation in Christ, as if anybody be in Christ, all things new, period. And you may have been born that way, but you must remember that you have been born again, if indeed the Spirit of God dwells within you. If I was to show you a picture of me from 1996, where I look like David Bowie's spirit brother, where I'm wearing raccoon eyeliner and burgundy lipstick, and I showed a picture to the church recently, and there were so many gasps that I swear a woman in the back screamed, like, no, not our pastor. I'm like, it's not now. I'm just showing you for the laugh. I didn't mean to scare everybody. But a man who is fully entrenched in a desire to make a name for himself, to be known and loved by people at the expense of others, driven to hard drugs, barely graduated out of high school with a 1.7 grade point average or something. I've never gone to college or seminary, but God got a hold of my life through Jesus and the gospel when I was 27 years old in 1998, and he utterly transformed my life. One of the greatest evidences that God's grace is actually doing something is how it transforms your personal life. If you're not being changed by the gospel, if it's not helping you become a man, a woman after God's heart, if it's not causing you to now, in the freedom that you have received from Christ, as he has set you free from the tyranny of yourself, if it has not freed you to move in obedience, then something's wrong with your idea of the gospel. If you think the gospel is about Jesus saving you out of hell and getting you into heaven, that's a false gospel. And Paul said, if anyone preaches any other gospel than that which I have preached to you, let him be accursed. That's how harsh his words are, because the gospel is not primarily about the forgiveness of sins. That's a part of it. But Jesus says, I have come to give you life and to give it to you abundantly. And though we may have died with Christ and have been buried with him, we have been raised into the newness of life, so that it is no longer I who live, Paul says, but Christ who lives within me. And that is accomplished through us as a community of faith being committed and dedicated to one another. There is no Christian growth outside of the church. People always ask me, is the church necessary to be a Christian? And I would say, absolutely, it's necessary. Unless you are imprisoned and are not allowed the gift of grace that community is, you have an absolute responsibility to be committed and involved in a local church, because that is God's way of expressing the reality of his son's bride, which is what we are. And so God has the power to change us. Don't say that he doesn't. If you understand grace, you know that you should be different. And you know that you're in the act of becoming all that Christ would have you be.